What comes to your mind when I say luxury sedan? For me, it's a simple choice, Mercedes Benz. And behind me is a 2018 E300 4MATIC. One of the best for Mercedes, one of the best as a mid-sized luxury sedan for a long time. But it does face tough competition from the Audi A6 and the BMW 5 Series. It has been a long and hard 6 weeks for myself and my family, but the dream lives on. And with your help, I can keep growing and keep creating good content for you guys. All you have to do is like, subscribe, and comment, and spread the word so Half-Ass Crew can grow. Let's dive into today's episode and find out if this E300 has what it takes to carry the torch for Mercedes and shine brighter than the competition.
You want it, you need it, but why?
This generation, the exterior styling, it grows on you after a while. Not that it's a bad looking car, I do think it's a very good looking car. But what I was used to from previous generations, it was a little rounder than usual. But overall, a very good looking car. The interior on this Mercedes, well, it's typical Mercedes. Classic Mercedes styling, blended with modern technology, and it seems like they're living in harmony here, because this car will appeal to all generations. It doesn't matter if you're old, young, or middle-aged. This car will appeal to a lot of people looking for a certain type of interior and certain type of technology, and Mercedes obviously brings all of them together pretty well. Now, before getting into the performance of this E300, I'd just like to go over the competition that it faces. Well, the direct competition would be the Audi A6 and the BMW 530xi. The reason I'm only talking about these two cars is the German rivalry is always good to talk about, and they're very closely matched. You do have the Lexus ES and the Cadillac CTS, but I won't be talking much about those vehicles in this review. Talking about the A6, that's the heaviest out of the three. It weighs in around 4,200, approximately 4,200 pounds when it's equipped with quattro all-wheel drive. It makes 261 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, and it's paired to a 7-speed S-tronic transmission. Now, in my opinion, the A6 is a very good looking car, but it always gets outshined by the A7, which is a little more expensive. Now, moving on to the BMW 530i xDrive, it makes 248 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. It's got a 2-liter turbo engine, mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission, and it weighs in around 3,978 pounds. In the looks department, I think the BMW is a little behind when compared to the Audi and the Mercedes, but that is personal preference. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Which one of these three vehicles is the better looking vehicle out of all three of them? Moving on to our review car today, the Mercedes E300. This car makes 241 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. It weighs in at 3,891 pounds, and it is the same story as the BMW and the Audi. It has a 2-liter turbo. Now let's take this baby for a spin and see how it performs in today's review. What I notice right away is the sound of the engine. They do pump some noise in these cars through the speakers. Brakes are really good for such a heavy car. Let's see if I go in Sport Plus and then try to just launch on this light. It does not feel like a 2-liter or even like a 240 horsepower car. It does feel like more when you're launching it. So fun car to have if you're looking for economy and not out of the park performance like any of the AMG models. You travel in style and comfort, and when you need that little bit of pep, you have that in this car for those launches that I just did. So this is our classic design. I like the nice blue and red contrast that it has. I was driving in sport. And then you have the progressive, not a big fan of this. Handling on these cars, all three of them is pretty good, but I would give the edge to BMW and Audi. They handle a little sharper when it comes to the A6 and the 530i versus the Mercedes. When you're cruising along in comfort mode, it does a good job. The programming for the ECU is pretty good, and the transmission doesn't seem like it's too confused. But what I do find is when it's in Sport Plus, the car seems to be a little confused in what gear it should be in, and sometimes it's over revving, or sometimes it's not even ready for a shift down. This particular E300 is not equipped with the air ride suspension. It just comes with the standard suspension, and I did find myself wanting the air ride suspension when I'm driving in the city strictly. If I'm driving on the highway, it's actually really good. You don't feel that you're missing anything. But if you do a lot of city driving, I would recommend the air ride suspension. That's a good option to have. And apart from that, it's not uncomfortable, the suspension. It's actually really good overall. It's kind of on the sportier side for handling. So for city driving, I do think the air ride suspension would have been a good option. But if you do a mix of both, it's not a big deal. There's a lot to like about this Mercedes E300. My favorite thing is the steering controls. The reason I say that is not too many things going on, and the left and the right joystick, you can control the driver side display, and you can also access the bigger display, the main display that's kind of in the middle. And once you get a hang of it, it's very easy to use, and everything in there is very functional. Since we are talking about what I like about this car, another thing that has to do with the steering controls is the mute button. I love that. A lot of manufacturers do not put the mute button on the steering controls, and sometimes it is annoying because it's on the side instead of having it right in front of you. So that was another thing I loved about this, that on the fly I can just hit the mute button if I don't want to hear any music, and you're good to go. My favorite feature on this car is the R button. What this R button does is once you press that, you have control of your passenger seat. So if you have any annoying passengers who are in the car and have the seat where you can't see your blind spot, well, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can just adjust the seat once you hit the R button and move it around. Usually I'm not one of the guys who talks about audio systems a lot, but I do have to mention this Burmeister audio system. It is a phenomenal surround system, and if you are looking in the used market, do ask if it does have that option, because it does make a very big difference in sound. Talking about the things I don't like, there's not much to dislike about this vehicle, but number one for me is actually the heated steering controls. The reason I say that is the positioning is not bad, but when you turn it on or off, it doesn't really tell you in any of the display if it's on or off. You just have to know that the light is on or off. And I do think that for an expensive car, this should have been something that's displayed on the screen when you turn it on or off. And a lot of manufacturers, actually Audi and BMW, I believe it does tell you on the display if it's on or off. Another thing I didn't like was the standard suspension. Now that's only when I'm driving in the city. On the highway, it's perfectly fine. You don't feel it. It's a comfortable suspension, and even in the city, it's not uncomfortable. It's just that I'm used to a certain standard from Mercedes, and that's something that I noticed when I was driving in the city. And that's why I think the air-ride suspension, if you have the option, do go for it, because it will save you a lot of headache in the long run. And moving on to another dislike that I have, that is the steering feel. Although it's pretty neutral, but when you go through the changes, so if you go from comfort to Sport Plus, Sport Plus in general the mode is pretty confused, but Comfort I find has the best weight to steering. And if you're in individual mode, you can set it to how you like. Comfort and Sport for me are the best modes to use, and that's where the steering is a little better, but it does lack the feel that you're looking for. If you're looking for a car that has top-notch luxury, comfort, and functionality, this would be the car for you. If you're looking for all of this plus performance, I would go for the E400 or the AMG models, depending on what kind of performance you're looking for, depending on obviously your budget. Do go give the A6 and the 530i a shot as well, because these cars are very closely matched. Doesn't matter what model you're going for, they're all very comparable. They all do the same thing in a different way. So for me, like I said before, the things that made this car shine were the customization options, because it makes you feel like you're wearing a suit that was just made for you and was tailored for you. So that's it for today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next week. Hakman out.